Welcome to the Long-Term Value Podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Kui. In today's episode, we will be reviewing John D Rockefeller, a titan of industry whose impact can still be felt almost 100 years after his passing. We will spend the first half of the podcast covering his upbringing and the building of Standard Oil. The second half will be devoted to philosophies and strategies he employed to create long-term value. Now let's begin. John D Rockefeller is often considered one of the greatest entrepreneurs and investors in history, renowned for building Standard Oil into one of the largest, most powerful, and influential companies of all time. Rockefeller was born in 1839 in Richford, New York. Growing up in modest circumstances, he learned the values of thrift, discipline, and meticulous attention to detail, traits that would become the foundation of his business philosophy. At age 16, Rockefeller began working as a clerk, quickly showcasing a keen business sense. By his early 20s, he saw enormous potential in the emerging oil industry, initially focusing on oil refining rather than drilling, which he viewed as too speculative. In 1870, at age 31, Rockefeller co-founded Standard Oil in Cleveland, Ohio. His vision went beyond mere refining. He sought complete control over the oil industry's ecosystem: refining, transportation, distribution, and marketing. Rockefeller employed several key strategies that defined Standard Oil's rise. These include, but are not limited to, vertical integration, efficiency and cost control, horizontal integration, and tactical negotiations. By the 1880s, and thanks to these key strategies, Standard Oil had achieved near total domination of the American oil refining industry, controlling nearly 90% of the market. The rapid and unprecedented rise of Standard Oil eventually drew the attention of the U.S. government. In 1911, the Supreme Court declared Standard Oil a monopoly, ordering it to be broken into 34 separate companies. These breakup entities include future industry giants such as Exxon, Mobil, and Chevron, companies that not long ago were the kings of the stock market. After stepping back from daily operations, Rockefeller turned his attention to philanthropy, pioneering structured, systematic giving. He established institutions like the University of Chicago, the Rockefeller Foundation, and numerous charitable and educational causes. His philanthropy has had a lasting impact that remains influential to this day. Now let's take a deeper dive into the philosophies and strategies he employed to create long-term value. Number 1, vertical integration. Rockefeller realized early that barrels used to ship oil were costly. Rather than buying barrels from suppliers, he built Standard Oil's own barrel-making plants. Eventually, Standard Oil became one of the world's largest barrel manufacturers, significantly reducing costs and dependencies. Similarly, Standard Oil built extensive pipeline networks like United Pipelines Company, rail terminals, tank cars, and retail distribution points, removing middlemen, costs, and efficiencies. This was all on top of the oil refining industry, of which he controlled the vast majority of. 2. Horizontal integration and consolidation. In 1872, Standard Oil executed the Cleveland Massacre, aggressively acquiring or forcing out 22 of its 26 Cleveland-based oil refining competitors within 3 months, gaining nearly total control of the refining industry in Cleveland. This consolidation quickly spread beyond Ohio, eventually giving Standard Oil approximately 90% of America's refining capacity by the late 1800s. 3. Operational excellence and cost efficiency. Rockefeller personally scrutinized costs, famously identifying savings by reducing the number of solder drops on oil barrels from 40 to 39, a seemingly trivial improvement that resulted in annual savings of thousands of dollars at scale. In addition, Standard Oil implemented meticulous bookkeeping to track every penny. Their rigorous accounting systems allowed Rockefeller to detect inefficiencies and continually optimize operations. 4. Strategic reinvestment and compounding of profits. Rockefeller consistently reinvested earnings into expanding Standard Oil's infrastructure rather than taking significant dividends. Profits were channeled into building new refineries, expanding pipeline networks, acquiring more efficient technology, and buying out rivals. The result: Standard Oil grew from one refinery in 1836 to controlling nearly the entire American oil industry within 3 decades, showing the exponential effect of compound reinvested earnings. 5. Aggressive use of economies of scale. By consolidating numerous small refineries into fewer larger ones, Standard Oil drastically reduced its per barrel refining cost. Rockefeller negotiated advantageous bulk transportation rates with railroads, significantly cheaper than smaller refiners could access, which drove competitors into bankruptcy or forced them to sell to Standard Oil. 6. Long-term relationships and trust. Despite Standard Oil's ruthless competitive reputation, Rockefeller carefully honored agreements with banks, railroads, and even his competitors who cooperated. His long-term partnership with railroad magnates like Cornelius Vanderbilt and Thomas Scott secured preferential shipping rates, dramatically lowering Standard Oil's transportation costs. 7. Systematic thinking and structure creation. Rockefeller implemented rigorous internal controls and processes, including detailed financial statements, standardized refinery operating procedures, and systematic hiring and training practices. Standard Oil was divided into clearly defined departments: production, transportation, and distribution, each managed by a skilled executive empowered to optimize their specific domain independently, pioneering early corporate organizational structure. 8. Patient and opportunistic capital allocation. Rockefeller refrained from speculative oil drilling ventures during oil booms in the 1870s and 1880s, instead patiently waiting and then buying struggling drillers and refineries at heavily discounted prices during downturns. He notably expanded aggressively during economic recessions, buying assets cheaply, enabling faster consolidation at minimal risk. 9. Consistent cash flows. Rockefeller focused Standard Oil primarily on refining, a business with predictable, steady cash flow, rather than exploration, which was risky and capital intensive. By prioritizing stable cash flow generation, Standard Oil weathered downturns like the Panic of 1873 and Panic of 1893, while competitors reliant on speculative ventures collapsed. In summary, Rockefeller employed vertical integration, horizontal integration and consolidation, operational excellence and cost efficiency, strategic reinvestment and compounding of profits, aggressive use of economies of scale, long-term relationships and trust, systematic thinking and structure creation, patient and opportunistic capital allocation, and consistent cash flow focus to build Standard Oil, a company whose impact can still be felt today. I hope you found this episode on John D Rockefeller and his strategies and philosophies on building long-term value to be insightful and applicable. Take care, and I'll talk to you again soon.